Learning to pray honestly. For many people, prayer feels intimidating at first. Not because they do not want God, but because they assume they must already know how to speak to Him correctly. Some imagine prayer requires perfect words, religious language, spiritual confidence, emotional intensity, or deep biblical knowledge. Others avoid prayer entirely because they feel unworthy. They think, why would God listen to someone like me? But one of the most freeing truths in Christianity is this: prayer begins not with performance, but with honesty. Before prayer becomes eloquent, it becomes real. The woman at the well did not approach Jesus with polished theology. She came carrying confusion, pain, questions, defensiveness, and hidden shame. Yet Christ still engaged her. This matters deeply because many seekers believe they must clean themselves up spiritually before approaching God. But throughout the Gospels, people often came to Jesus messy, uncertain, broken, afraid, skeptical, or desperate, and He welcomed them. Prayer is not the reward for spiritual perfection. Prayer is part of the journey toward God. At its core, prayer is relationship. Not ritual for the sake of ritual, not magic words, not religious theater. Prayer is the human soul opening itself before God. This means prayer can include questions, worship, confession, fear, sorrow, longing, silence, weakness, even struggle. Many of the Psalms are startlingly honest. The writers cry out, "Why are you far from me? How long, O Lord? Search me, forgive me, teach me, deliver me." Biblical prayer is not fake spirituality pretending everything is fine. It is relationship strong enough to bring the truth into the light. This is why Jesus criticized performative religion so strongly. He warned against praying merely to impress others. For some people, prayer becomes a performance of spirituality instead of genuine communion with God. But Jesus taught something radically personal. When you pray, go into your room, close the door, and pray to your Father. Notice the language again. Father. Christianity teaches not merely that God exists, but that through Christ people are invited into relationship with Him. This changes prayer completely. Prayer is no longer an attempt to manipulate a distant deity. It becomes communion with the one who already knows you fully. This is both comforting and unsettling. Comforting because nothing needs to be hidden. Unsettling because nothing can be hidden. And perhaps this is why many people resist prayer at first. Prayer slows us down enough to become aware of ourselves. In silence, hidden fears often surface. Guilt, loneliness, anxiety, resentment, pride, grief, spiritual hunger. Distraction can temporarily bury these things. Prayer often uncovers them. But this uncovering is not cruelty. It is healing beginning. Imagine visiting a doctor while demanding that the wound never be examined. Healing requires exposure. And prayer is one of the places where God gently begins exposing what the soul has carried for years. This is why prayer sometimes feels deeply peaceful and deeply uncomfortable at the same time. The Spirit of God does not merely comfort. He transforms, and transformation requires truth. For beginners, it is important to understand something simple. You do not need to impress God. You do not need spiritual vocabulary. You do not need to pretend certainty. Sometimes prayer begins with words as simple as,
God, are you there? Help me. Teach me. Forgive me. I want to know you. I don't understand. I'm afraid. Thank you.
And sometimes prayer has no words at all. Just silence. Just tears. Just longing. Romans 8 says that there are moments when the Spirit helps us in weakness because we do not even know how to pray as we ought. That means weakness does not disqualify a person from prayer. Weakness often becomes the doorway into deeper prayer. Many people secretly believe God only listens to spiritually impressive individuals. But Jesus repeatedly moved toward ordinary people. Fishermen, tax collectors, the poor, the ashamed, the sick, the overlooked, the sinful, the brokenhearted. One of the clearest pictures of this appears in Luke 18. Jesus tells the story of two men praying. One proudly lists his religious accomplishments. The other can barely lift his eyes and simply cries, "God, have mercy on me." And Jesus says the humble man went home justified before God. Why? Because humility opens the soul to grace. Pride resists dependence. Prayer teaches dependence, and dependence feels uncomfortable in a culture obsessed with self-sufficiency. Modern people are taught, control yourself, save yourself, define yourself, trust yourself completely. But prayer quietly teaches another truth. Human beings are not self-sustaining creatures. We need God, not merely occasionally, continually. This is why prayer slowly changes people. Not because prayer is magic, but because relationship changes the heart. The more a person brings their real self before God, the more transformation begins unfolding over time. Not instantly, but gradually. This is important because many beginners become discouraged when prayer does not immediately produce dramatic experiences. Sometimes prayer feels powerful, sometimes peaceful, sometimes emotionally intense, sometimes dry. But relationship is not built only through emotional highs. Even healthy human relationships deepen through consistency, presence, honesty, and trust developed over time. The same is true spiritually. Prayer is not merely about feeling something. It is about learning to remain near Christ. The woman at the well stayed in the conversation long enough for revelation to deepen. And perhaps that is one of the first lessons of prayer. Remain. Even when you do not fully understand yet. Remain. Even when you feel weak. Remain. Because many people discover God not in one dramatic moment, but through repeated honest encounters at the well.